This is the Backlog Exposed podcast with Kevin Lane and Joel Rubel, bringing you weekly discussions on gaming as well as quick insights into sports, entertainment, and anything else that they can think of. Be sure to check out the backlogexposed.com, where you can listen to the podcast and get links to Twitter, Discord, YouTube, and Facebook.
I'm Joe.
I'm Kevin.
And we are
the Backlog
Exposed.
Now, gear up and get ready because this backlog is about to be exposed.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 38 of the Backlog Exposed. It's interesting as you make commitments and you set expectations. You get agreements from friends who say, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, sure. I'll be on your podcast. Got a great story, Kevin. Got something the whole audience is going to love. And then they pass out. But not only do they pass out on purpose. Looking me in the eye as I say, Jimmy, time for the podcast. And, we don't have Jimmy today. But we do have Jerry. Jerry's back. And Jerry, just a few weeks ago, we talked quite a bit about the Patriots. Jerry, how'd the Patriots do yesterday?
Well, I'd like to say better than we could have possibly ever expected. Never in a million years would I thought that it would have been that kind of just whooping.
So what are you saying? Are you saying that the Patriots lost?
I would not say that. I hope I don't have to say that for the rest of the season. But it was incredible. It was an incredible showing and something I hope they carry into next weekend because they're going to need it.
Absolutely. So also with us, a newfound friend, David. David comes to us from Atlanta. And if you recall, on one of the last episodes, we were slapping the tables. So I told them, don't touch the table, and here I am slapping it. So, one of the last episodes I was talking about coming out to Vegas, and Jerry and I had a little bit of a discussion about that, and here we are. We're sitting outside of the Las Vegas Hilton Grand, and we are looking out across the beautiful landscape. We can see the desert in the distance, and what else is that? The SLS we're looking at. Any glamorous hotels out this window?
I've got some mountains, though. We've got the Circus on the other side. I wouldn't necessarily call it glamorous, but the lights are pretty.
Hey, the lights are pretty. David?
The lights are pretty, and it's just down the street.
Just down the street. Everything is just down the street.
Everything. Just why even bother with Uber? Just walk it.
Walk it. What we're doing is we're double deucing it every day, a couple times a day. And for those of you not in a Las Vegas mindset, the double deuce is a double-decker bus, not two shits at once. And, we deuce it, but the deuce stops are about 40 minutes apart from each other. You can see them all. I mean, they're all, like, right there.
It's always right there.
But, yeah, we...
Public service announcement. When you pay for your ticket, take the ticket.
Yeah, so we got here, and we were getting basically you pay for, like, a 2-hour, a 24-hour, or a 3-day pass. And... we had 5 of us. We all are standing at this machine. We put our money in. We get our ticket. And we all take a nice 40-minute stroll down to get to the bus stop. And Jimmy's like, well, how do they know that we're getting on this bus? Like, how do we know we paid? We swipe your ticket. He's like, well, I didn't get a ticket. We had to go all the way back to the machine, which was like, again, a hike. And we get to the machine, and someone had taken his 2-day or 3-day pass and left their 1-day pass. And so now he's all digital. Now Jimmy's got it on his phone. He's smarter than us. But
silver lining, it wasn't a total loss, right?
It wasn't a total loss.
He could have lost his 3-day pass and come back and found nothing. At least he got a 1-day for the price of a 3. Somebody was kind enough to leave that for him. Very considerate.
Exactly.
And a free jog back.
And a free jog. We're getting a lot of walking. I've already lost 72 pounds in the 2 days I've been here, but gained it back eating fruit waffles. The food out here is excellent. For anyone who's been to Vegas, you can pretty much get portions the size of family meals for yourself, but prices aren't too bad, so it works out. So David is Jimmy's brother-in-law. Okay, Jimmy's brother-in-law. Jimmy, an old friend of mine as well, and so just like many trips, if you ever go on a trip and someone's new, you end up making friends or you hate them, and I'm still on the cusp here with David. Not quite sure yet, but we'll find out. He has one more day with us, and we'll find out where he stands tomorrow. No, we're having a blast out here. Actually, it's been quite the journey so far. We're having fun. We're waiting for a couple more friends to come out, and then unfortunately we're losing Jerry and Gerardo.
Gerard Suave,
Another new guy.
Yeah.
The Gerard is sleeping in the other room. Another new friend to me, old friend of Jerry. And so we had a whole crew of people we tried to get out here, and only a few of them made it, but we're making the best of it. We're having an absolute blast out here.
And we're already looking to try to plan the next one before this one is over. So,
Yeah.
definitely, I think we need to make an annual thing of this.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking forward to it.
And it's crazy, too, because, obviously the wives and people are like, how could you just make that an annual thing? But, there are, from a financial standpoint, you can make it work without spending tons of money. And
sometimes some separation time is a good
thing. Yeah, exactly, right? Sometimes separation
Everybody needs.
I think probably more for them than us. I mean, they need us to be away from them so that they can calm down because,
What's the old adage, right? Absence makes the heart grow
because
fonder.
none of us like being away, right?
No, it's not all funny.
Right.
Yeah, not for us. It's for them. This trip to Vegas is for the wives. So we dedicate this episode to our lovely, beautiful wives.
To the wives.
To the wives.
Absolutely.
And to Jimmy. So we're literally looking. We can see Gerard over there in one bed, Jimmy over there in another bed, and we're trying to figure out what's going to happen next with them.
Keep something secret.
Yeah,
The podcast doesn't know what's going to happen next.
Gerard.
Somebody's up.
Oh, Gerard heard that. He's up now.
The fart sounds on the phone woke him up.
Yeah, exactly. and just like that, one is awake and one remains asleep. So now we have 4 minds to come up with a solution for what's going to happen next. But in Vegas, you won't find out what's going to happen next because...
Well, especially tonight. So we're losing Jerry, right?
Yeah,
our tour guide.
Yeah,
so
we're losing.
now we got to try and find out
Tonight
where we're going to go,
Oh, yeah.
where the bus stops are.
Well, this is where
In
you
the
guys,
rain.
Yeah, this is where you guys kind of go out now and you can just get your feet wet out there. Just jump
we're
in,
like,
dive in.
You gave us the tools to be successful, and now you got to let us. You
we're
got to
like
let us
newborn
ride.
giraffes. He's done licking the stuff off us, and now we walk. Now we walk and walk and keep walking until our fucking shoes wear off. And
Because, God, it's just right there.
just right around the corner.
Yeah.
This CVS.
The CVS.
I'm dehydrated, tired, my feet hurt, something fierce. They're like bubbling up from all the blisters, and I'm like, I just need to get some water. And Jerry's like, oh, there's a CVS right on the corner over here. And it was like 40 more minute walk. They closed a couple years ago. I'm like, Uber, come get me. Uber's like, yeah, we'll be there in 42 hours. But no, so yeah, we're having a great time out here. From a gaming perspective, I'm trying to talk them all into trading in their jobs for video gaming, and it's not successful yet. But I still got a couple more days with Jimmy, and we'll see what happens.
I'll start my own sensitive sound.
Yeah, David's actually going to be purchasing ears and talking into them, whispering, using sweet, delicate sounds. And he's going to probably do some ASMR on the Backlog Exposed network. So, let's see. I've never done a podcast live like this with everyone in the same room, so hopefully the audio is coming out all right. But if not, this is my apology now, and don't worry about it later. The microphone I'm using is the Blue Yeti, and it's like a cardioid, they say?
Yep.
An omnioid. I don't know, there's a couple different terms, but
Keeps the drinks cold too, right?
keeps the drinks cold. Yeah, the Blue Yeti. It's actually does have like a little cup holder.
It really does. Shot glass.
But yeah, let's see. So just a couple of small gaming news tidbits. I saw that they're doing the Uncharted movie, and looks like they're actually really moving forward with that, which is actually pretty cool. I don't know,
So question, Drake's Fortune? Is that Uncharted?
Yeah, that's Uncharted. Yeah, you played it?
Oh my gosh. That's one of the best games
It is. Oh my god. So, did you beat the whole thing?
The first and the second one.
Okay, so you never played 3 or 4?
I haven't played 3 or 4.
Okay. And then they have a new one called Lost Legacy, which is like a break-off of Drake. Drake's not in that one.
Oh, okay.
There's 2 chicks. One of the cool things about... Have you ever heard of Uncharted series?
Yeah, I think my son has all 4 on one day.
Okay.
Part of his bundle.
Yeah. So it's a PlayStation exclusive story type thing, and made by the Naughty Dog, the same people who did Last of Us and Last of Us 2, which is coming out soon this year.
Which was a great game.
Last of Us.
The Last of Us was
incredible.
Fantastic.
And yeah, and all these Naughty Dog games, they actually made Crash Bandicoot years and years ago.
They just came out with
remastered. But yeah, Naughty Dog does a phenomenal job of basically making a movie in a game. And now they're making a movie of the game, which is very fitting because they're just phenomenal games. I mean, when I played The Last of Us, there was no, it didn't feel like playing a game like you're playing Call of Duty by any means. Like, it's not this action-packed. There's parts, there's things, but it was more like the story as you move forward. There was no difficulty to me in the game. I mean, you kill the zombies or whatever, but it wasn't like this super challenging game.
And that's the one, right, where it was in the beginning, they get separated, right? They're in a truck or something, right? And they get separated. Is there a kid involved?
Yeah, well, the girl is by herself, and then she runs into Joel.
That's right.
And then he takes care of her, and he kind of acts like a fatherly figure.
It's a rundown city that they're in.
Yeah, and like the outbreak. Yes. Outbreak has happened, and he's basically taking care of her, but then she's taking care of him throughout the game, and he plays both of them. Just a phenomenal character development in that game, and but they've done it before, and that's in the Uncharted series where they kind of started with that type of format. And so yeah, they have so they just got the same director for 10 Cloverfield Lane is directing the new Uncharted movie. So forget who they have for Drake as the character. I could look it up. I'm not going to right now, but I'm looking forward to that one just because they tell a story really well in the game, and now we get to see it Hollywood style. So I do recommend them. I do recommend that you play 3 and 4. I went through the first 3 because they came on like a single disc bundle, and I played them all in like a weekend. And then 4 came out, and I was blown away. Some people don't like that. Like my buddy Jed, he can't play that type of game because he feels like it's way too linear. And
I like them because you got to figure stuff out, right? There's action.
Yeah, the puzzles in that game.
Because it kind of reminds me of Resident Evil, right? So you got puzzles that you got to figure out, but there's still that shooting action game, right, that you have. And it's funny you talk about movies because that's one I would like them to redo. Resident Evil, I don't feel like they did a great job.
No, and the last one was terrible.
Yeah, like make it more like the game.
Yeah.
You know,
creepy. We'll get into that in a minute with the VR because this is like
Uncharted would be awesome.
Uncharted would be phenomenal VR. I have a feeling the next generation is going to be way more VR centric. And maybe it's just a wishful thinking thing, but especially with this last holiday season, the bundles got so low, and a lot of people started picking it up just on the side on a whim. And the games, there's enough of them that are so cheap that like you don't break the bank with it anymore. I mean, I paid $500 for my initial setup
for the VR, which is, I mean, it's nothing when you think about what you're getting.
When you think about the technology, but now you can get the bundles for like $150 during these holiday sales.
Right.
Yeah, and
Black Friday
$250 for the bigger bundle with the wands and stuff. And it's like, I'm sitting here going, man, if I just waited 2 years, I could save $200. But then again, I bought 2 bundles, so there's no saving money for me. But I'm a huge proponent of the VR stuff. I talk about it a lot. And one of the things is that Joe, my colleague, he hasn't dove in on the VR because first, before we ever got it, he and I went to a Best Buy, put on the headset, did the whole like trial thing, and it was impressive. But there was something about it. Some people, gives them a headache or it makes them and it's crazy. I've talked about it a ton, so I won't get into too detailed here. But the motion sickness from VR is unlike motion sickness from a roller coaster. It's this really big mind fuck that holds you there. So even when you take it off, you still got it. And it's almost like your brain is like rewired for a couple of minutes. And for me, I actually had one game that made me motion sickness, that feeling, for 3 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like 3 days I just did not feel good. And it was definitely triggered by the game.
What game?
And it was Riggs. Excuse me. Riggs did it.
I did it with Resident Evil. It only lasted maybe like 30 minutes after I was done, but I had to stop. I was like, okay, I feel
They
a little
say
woozy,
some people suggest that you push through it. But,
yeah, because you can train yourself to get over it.
But for me, the way when I was triggered with it, it was like what's it called? Vertigo. You ever?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was, to be honest, is that it triggered a vertigo effect. But whenever you hear people talk about vertigo, it doesn't sound that bad. You're like, oh, you feel unbalanced and uneasy. But if you've ever had vertigo, I have a medicine that I take that if you take yourself off of it too fast, you can trigger vertigo. And I did it. I was like, I don't want to take this anymore. I just cold turkey. And like 2 days later, it was like you couldn't tell when you were putting your foot down on the ground. You always felt like you were just off balance. And it was one of the weirdest and grossest feelings. Like your brain's just not matching with everything and just looking straight, looked off and unbalanced. And it's scary, but it's also like really stressful. It's a more stressful, mind-bending thing, anxiety-driven type, uncomfortable, and all that stuff. And that's the motion sickness. I didn't feel like I was going to throw up. It never felt like, with VR, I never felt like I was going to puke. Like a roller coaster would make you want to puke.
Right.
You might get that uneasy feeling in your gut, and the gut wrenching. Like even the roller coaster games and stuff they trigger that feeling. But it's completely different from the motion sickness feeling of, okay, I'm in a zone I don't want to be in. And so the Riggs did it. You said Resident Evil did it. Another game was Robinson: The Journey, which was a really cool game. But there's certain areas, and I think a lot of it has to do with the development and the perspective inside the game. For example, your brain is trying to say, okay, this is a real environment. We want to pretend this is a real environment. We know it's a headset. When you play it long enough, your brain forgets that you're in a headset and you're playing in this environment, right? Some VR games actually do. You just kind of forget that you're there if you let yourself. And so in this particular game, all of a sudden you go into an enclosed space. You're in this big, vast area. You're walking around like a jungle. Dinosaurs are all around. The dinosaurs are scaled proportionately, so it feels real. And you're like, holy shit. And then you have to walk into like a small enclosed room. And you go into that room, and something is off. If you're just looking, it doesn't seem like anything's off. But when you walk around this smaller room, your brain knows something's off. Right. And all of a sudden, you're just like, holy shit. Whoa. Yeah, whoa, like that wall came at me too fast. Maybe it was a millisecond too fast, but the wall's coming at me too fast, or the ceiling's not measuring right or something. And it's only certain games that does it. But then you can search, and you'll see other people with that same experience on that same game at that same moment, and you know there's something from a development standpoint. And I love that because that means it can be corrected.
It can get better.
They can get better. So if it was just like everybody who ever puts on the headset's going to have something in the back of their brain triggered that's not good, like that's a bad thing.
You can deal with it.
Yeah. But if they can develop around it, and some games do, then like Beat Saber. I haven't heard anyone ever complain about motion sickness in Beat Saber. There is no movement. Most games where you're stationary and you're just moving your arms or something, there's no motion sickness feeling or anything. But then there's other ones where stuff's coming at you and you got to dodge, and if the environment doesn't do what your brain's thinking it's going to, it may trigger that feeling. So,
yeah, it's funny because I thought first when VR came out, because 3D TVs never took off like I thought they were going to. Right?
Yeah.
Got a 3D TV. I was like, man, this is the coolest thing. Why don't they make more movies out of this? And then all the movies that came out seemed like they were like kids' movies. I'm like, well, why don't they make like real movies about it? Right? This is such cool stuff, right? So that's what I was wondering if VR was going to be just like that, where it kind of didn't take off like I was expecting it to. But it does seem like it's doing a little bit better, especially I think price point.
Yeah,
is a big thing.
It seems that it's here to stay, and I made that same comparison myself with the 3D TVs. I'm still holding on to about a 8-9-year-old Samsung TV. It was well ahead of its time at that particular point in time. Yeah, 8-9 years ago, it was a 3D. I mean, still 240 hertz processing. So I mean, just really great as far as pixelation and stuff. None of that. Great picking up the sports action with absolutely no blur, nothing like that. So even by today's standards, it's still a great TV. but it's a 55-inch, and I've got it mounted over a fireplace where I can fit like 75.
Yep.
So I've been getting that itch for the longest time. Like I really,
yeah, I mean,
really
this
want
year
that.
the TVs were so like I got a 75-inch for $700.
Absolutely right, and so I really want to make that jump, but they're not really making the 3D TVs anymore.
Well, let me tell you something exciting. VR, you can put a DVD, a 3D disc into your PlayStation, and the VR headset handles it. And in the same way, yeah.
It does.
So you can throw that TV in your bedroom, get a 75-inch or bigger or whatever for the fireplace, and those DVDs don't go extinct. You don't need them on that TV, and you can watch them either over there or on your VR headset. And it's actually really nuts in the VR headset because the movies scale to it looks like you're watching on a 200-inch television.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It's like you're in IMAX.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Yeah, I've done that on the Gear VR, the Samsung Gear VR, and so you have the Netflix app in there where you can watch the movie and looking around. You're like in a cabin in the woods or something like that, and it was a very cool thing. But I really do wish the 3D had taken off in the same way with the TVs. Like we're seeing VR now. The only thing I would do differently is I got what was known as the Active 3D. So I needed the special glasses that you have to charge.
Charging ones,
right.
That's mine too, yeah.
Right, and so that's been known to give people headaches as well because what it's doing is basically blacking out one eye at a time at a super rate, and the TV has to sync with that, and that somehow that produces the 3D effect. And then I realized, well, wait, there are other TVs. I love Samsung, by the way. That's like no plug or anything, but my whole house is Samsung, from the phones to the TVs, whatever else. And so I just like.
Hear that, Samsung? We're talking about you. BacklogExposed.com loves you.
And so what I wanted is I wanted to wait for Samsung to come out with the next version, like LG, which we're doing passive, where you can just like grab the 3D glasses from the movie theater. And,
Yeah, you don't have batteries. It's just,
what I hate about anything in these types of industries is that there's no longer like a standard built. It's everyone scrambles to make their own independent or proprietary plug, or the whole iPhone versus Android thing. It's like, there are universal standard things, and then a company like Apple will say, no, not on our side. Like, we're going to do our own thing, and there's no need for it. Maybe it's better than the Android one, but if it is, work with the community and give Android access to that same plug, and then you know what I mean.
Yeah, compatibility.
But what sucks is that it's being done from a financial standpoint. Like, they're trying to stay, and that's what sucks. It's like, I hate, and we talked about this with the PlayStation 1 Classic console that came out a couple months ago. I hate when, as a consumer, they're just trying to fuck you. Like, they're just trying to take as much money. As a business owner, when I did my T-shirts, maybe that's why I wasn't super successful in it, like globally successful and all that, because I wasn't looking to take them every dollar out of someone's pocket. I was trying to give them the best deals I could. I was making the money I wanted to make, and I wouldn't do it if I wasn't. But I also wasn't trying to like rip people off. And when you see, iPhone, like one of the gyms I went to once, I remember they had just decked out and they got all these new machines. Every machine had an iPod charger plug thing on it.
That's awesome.
And it was like 2 months later, they came out with a new port. It was iPhone 5 or whatever that had a new thing. And it's like, well, like that gym just spent probably like $150,000 or whatever it was on all that new equipment. And it's just obsolete. And nowadays, like, no one ever uses it. They still have that same plug, but it's that old one, the wide one.
Yep.
And, they didn't even provide cheap adapters or anything, and it's just if you think about how much that impacts the community. But if it was just a USB-C, which charges faster and is more universal, it's like they could just do that, and then everybody could use it, and everyone would be satisfied. But just like the PlayStation 1 Classic, it's like they have this device that they can put way more on. They have the rights to do it. They have, but they put 20 games. They want to charge you $100 for it. These are games that divided 20 times 5. They're not worth $5 a piece. You know what I mean? And that's what they're trying to get for them. And they bundle it all up and they sell it for $100. And I'm glad that thing didn't do well, because it shows don't fuck them over. Don't, Redbox, right? I'm not going to torrent movies if there's an alternative like Redbox where I can go pay $1 for a movie. I don't need a movie for 4 nights. I need a movie for tonight. If it's available, if I can go get it, I have no problem paying $1. But then I have on my Android phone $4 to rent the movie for 5 days or something. It's like, it's just knowing like digital distribution
too, right? And it's like
yes
you
and
don't have to
no.
go anywhere.
But like, okay, so a company like Google, on Google Play, they're trying to say, okay, well, I mean, let's throw that argument out there, convenience, right? And they're paying for the storage and all that. Yeah, I get all that. But I can go create 85 Gmail accounts with unlimited storage on every single one of them. So don't tell me that's the cost. Like, they're not, don't tell me that's the reason, right? Distribution rights. Maybe, but Redbox is doing it for $1. So, like, let's get down to brass tacks. It's about money. And what are people willing to pay? We know that they do the market research. They know what the right price is. They know what people are going to pay versus what they want. All those things. But me personally, I'm not going to use that service. I know that the digital distribution is easier for them. They get the movie, they load it onto a server, they initiate the package, and now people can download it. They don't have to print a disc. They don't have to go work with businesses and build, carousel machines and kiosks and say, and have a maintenance man come out and do that and
those major
deal with people stealing the disc and putting the wrong disc in. They don't have to deal with all that.
Major overhead reduction for them.
Yes, and then it costs 3 times, 4 times as much. The digital boom, the video game thing, you can go buy discs or you can buy digital. I'm a huge digital only. I love, rather than say I hate that, I love not having to go switch to discs. Yeah. I love that. But I hate that the digital doesn't go on sale like the discs do.
Yeah, they don't.
The discs go on sale because GameStop is selling them for $10 pop, 3 months after they're released. So then they have to sell them on sale at the stores and all that to compete with GameStop and that stuff because the trade-ins and stuff. But on the digital, they don't have to do that. They're not losing money if you don't buy it. Right. And, they know you might go buy it on the hard disk. But it sucks when like Sony's selling the disc for $14.99, $60 for the digital copy. Like, it just blows my mind.
Well, it reminds me of too, right? The PlayStation 1 release, because what they did on the PlayStation 4 is didn't have a back converter.
Yeah, yep.
So that's how they kind of screwed you over. I used to be able to play old Resident Evil games, right, on the PlayStation 3, but then once 4 came out, they would have to come out with a compatible version you have to download. Yep. Or that's it. You couldn't insert your old discs anymore.
Well, that's a big talking point this year. Like, so 4 years ago, before the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One were coming out, there was a lot of talk about not just compatibility with previous games. I mean, it was a talking point, but the more talking point at that point was, what's the new technology going to do differently? Like, what are we going to be able to do that we couldn't before? Right. And they always pushed it. It's way better graphics. It's way more powerful processing. And I'll be honest, like, now that we're at the tail end of the PlayStation 4, we know the 5's coming either this year or next. Like, it's pretty much guaranteed at this point. There's enough buzz that the development teams that are on NDA, they're not allowed to talk about it, but we know that they have the kits, even though they're not allowed to say they have the kits. So some of the bigger industry, the bigger companies, are already working on their games for the 5. We know it. Whether it's 2 years from now, a year from now, 6 months from now, we know that's happening now. We know that the VR is going to be a component of it, sorry. And so, knowing that, we know that we're not getting anything else for the PlayStation 4. Like, there's nothing new, nothing bigger. We're not getting another Pro. We're not getting, you know what I mean? Like, so we have what we got. Is it that much better than the previous console? I think to some points, yes. It's obviously, it's handling games that are 40, 50, 60, 70 gigs a piece. The games have more content on them, the better graphics.
You can do VR now.
You can do the VR. But is it that much more groundbreaking than a PS3? And I said, that's a question, actually. I'm going to compose it. Because when you look at the end of the PS3, the last couple of games that came out, Skyrim and Grand Theft Auto 5, those 2 games are both still active communities. Skyrim is still being released on different consoles, and it's like newly released on the Switch just this last year, and the VR Skyrim and stuff. And well, those graphics never really, even on the 3, blew people away. It was like the massive size of that game, and the quality of the gameplay was pretty high. Grand Theft Auto 5 looked phenomenal on the 3. It really did. Mm-hmm. So when you played and it took them like 6 months to convert that over to the 4. before they actually had it. And it looks good on the 4 too, but like my point is it looked really good. When you look at the games that came out on the PlayStation 3, the year the PlayStation 3 came out, none of them looked like that. Right? It took time for the developers to figure out how to make the games look as best they could with the software they had.
Yeah, the new technology.
I don't feel like the progression from the first games that came out on 4 to the final games coming out on the 4 are like so significantly different. So I think that we hit some type of a lull in what we're able to do. Maybe I'm not seeing all the details like the 60 frames per second on some of these games or whatever. But my point is, like, just from a usability standpoint, I played a game, Killzone Shadowfall. It was one of the first games that came out for PlayStation. Didn't get the great reviews, but I actually liked it a lot. And the quality of the graphics were phenomenal, in my opinion. The draw distance was great. It was fast. There was very little, or if any, bugs, if I recall. And you could look at that game today, and it still looks pretty damn good. Mm-hmm. Same with like Battlefield 4 had just come out on PlayStation 4. That was one of the first ones. Battlefield 4 still has an active community. It's not as big as it once was, but it's still there. And it still looks pretty damn good. Battlefield 1 looks way better, but comparatively, is it so significant that we've made leaps and bounds as the developers progress so much that
I want to pay $700 for a new console.
Yeah, but like, so when the 5 comes out, are we going to look and go, holy shit, that's way better than the 4? Like, are we?
Yeah, I didn't say that when I got them.
Yeah.
When I went from 3 to 4, I wasn't like, holy moly.
Well, that's the question that every consumer is going to have to ask themselves when the new console comes out, right? You always have that large group of consumers that just have to have the latest thing because it's the latest thing.
Hi, my name's Kevin.
Right. Hey, I know you're doing research, though, buddy. I know it's
exactly. It's for the podcast.
Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is, I think that those folks are always going to outweigh the ones who would say, for instance, stick with the 3 just because they know that I've already built this library of PS3 games, and I know they're not going to be backward compatible, so I jump to the 4. Unless you know there is something that's going to be groundbreaking in the next one that you have to have, I would almost be a proponent of sitting back and waiting a bit because it's a way to tell the companies that, you know what, you're screwing us and we know it.
Make it better and we'll buy it.
You speak loudest with your dollars.
Well, I'm hoping because with this generation, the 4 and the Xbox One, my PlayStation overall destroyed Microsoft. I mean, both did well. But if you're going to put them on paper, we all know.
Yeah, the Xbox and it's garbage.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, I have them both. I don't play the Xbox One. And I don't know if it's just I was sick of the Xbox. I didn't like some of the things that they were doing when they announced the One, all that stuff. I don't know if if the hype had anything to do with it. But I was an Xbox guy that never had really played much PlayStation. And now I'm a PlayStation guy who doesn't really play any Xbox. And so I would buy a 5. If the price point's within reach, I'm not going to spend $700 on a console. I'm not, unless it was like better than any computer out there. Like it has to be ridiculous. But having just built a really good computer and spending quite a bit to do so, and playing games on it and stuff, like being able to scale up the resolutions and whatever, you can't do that with a console. So it's got to come ready to go. It's got to come ready to go for 5 years. It's got to be something that's going to last 5 years, and it's got to have backwards compatibility. I will buy day one if I can play my PlayStation 4 library on that PlayStation 5. And the digital. I don't want to have to put in a disc. That's one of the other things. Like with the Xbox 360, you can, the Xbox One's doing backwards compatibility, but you got to have that disc. Well, with this generation being all digital, my Sony PlayStation account has like thousands of dollars worth of games on it. And if they go backwards compatible, that should be my license. I should be able to install those games on the 5. And I'll buy the 5 outright, straight up, right after day one, if it has that, because I have a backlog. That's my whole thing for the show is that I have these games. I have hundreds of games to play. You know what I mean? And maybe I won't ever get to them all, and I probably won't, but
that's not the point.
Yeah, but like maybe that will be when I get to them, is if they don't do backwards compatibility, I'm going to stick with my 4 till I'm ready to go to the 5. I won't need to go right to the 5.
I hate that the companies put you in that situation, though, because in the end, you do really get to see that it's not about, they don't value the customer. I mean, it's about, when you put your consumer in a position to where they have to make this decision between getting the latest and greatest at the cost of losing everything that they've already had. That's just not an enviable position for anyone to be in. Mm-hmm. And I hate that they make people make that choice, because there's absolutely no reason that they couldn't have, developed a 4 that had backward compatibility. Obviously not. It's a statement that they're making. Well, you know what? We need to maybe pay the stockholders or something. Let's go ahead and create a new console, and everybody's gonna have to rebuy all the games. We need our numbers to look good here next year. It's purely revenue driven, and it sucks to say, but they really don't value the consumer. It's horrific, but you see it everywhere. You see it with all the big companies. Or Apple, every time they change a cable, like you said, a charger or what have you. I mean, there's no reason
but consumers are getting smarter. Like a lot of consumers are getting, not everyone, but a lot of consumers are getting smarter. And unfortunately, not everyone is, and you're gonna have enough people not being smart enough who are gonna not care. They're not gonna bark. They're just gonna do what they're told. They're gonna move forward with the new technology. They're gonna pay the money, or they're gonna stick with the old and not be able to afford the new stuff. And you're gonna have the secondary companies come in and build the cheap, shitty adapters with the cheap, shitty cables that you have to replace every 2 weeks. And that's like another industry in itself. But hopefully, as we progress as a society, get smarter as a society in the technology age, and I mean, our kids are as smart as we are now, but they're 30 years younger than us, and they're, like, where are they going to be when they're our age is astronomically, it's unpredictable. And so hopefully as they get older and they know better, they put their foot down and say, no, we're not going to put up with this shit. My car needs to be able to allow me to insert my elbow into the ignition like every other car. And we got a good picture of an elbow tonight. So
I would say the one thing on PlayStation that I say they do have going for them is, so I had a lot of problems with my Xbox. I got the only after like a year of it, right? I have never had issues on PlayStation, and it has lasted for years. Every single one that I bought. So at least if you don't want to buy the new one, you have a quality product.
Yeah. They did do a good job. Now, when it first came out, there was like, I think 250 consoles. It was like a really small number. But because the internet age is upon us, those 250 people were able to bark real loud, and everyone was waiting. Is this going to have issues like the Red Ring of Death? And so, like, right out the gate, there was a couple people, they went to turn on their thing, and it wouldn't turn on. They got the blue line or something, blue line of death, they called it. But really what it was there was probably some guy at manufacturing that wasn't inserting the hard drive in all the way or something. It was like literally something simple like that could fix it, or they had to swap the hard drive out or something. And they made it, people love making things worse than it is. So it blew up real fast, and at the time, Sony was like right on top of that. The PR was really good, and they rectified that. I think they got those people like new PlayStations and stuff, and they were handling that stuff real fast. Same with when the VR came out at first, like people were having issues with it. They were replacing them. I mean, I personally, one of the lenses I had got scratched, and there was like no questions asked. I got it replaced, and they sent me one, and I sent mine back, and I never even had a day without it. So
they do a good job.
They do
over the internet.
Yeah,
because I believe that in the beginning on PlayStation 4, if I remember, it wasn't 3D compatible. But I thought they added it as a upgrade over the internet, which is cool that they can do that. Right, you don't have to go buy a piece of equipment. And attach it in, it's another plug that goes in, right? It's literally a software.
Part of me wonders, as like a project manager, I wonder, like, do they know they need it and are working on it already? Yes. Or do they know it costs money and they're waiting to see if there's a demand before they put the team in charge of getting it developed?
Could be a bit of both.
Probably a bit of both. Yeah. But a couple of things that I need to see in the next console from a PlayStation perspective, because I'm primarily that right now, but if Xbox does it with the VR, and I think this is going to happen, but the VR is going to be built in. It's got to be in the PlayStation. I don't want a secondary
box with white. Yeah, it's clunky right now.
Right. The VR 2 is better because there's less cables. It's one cable about the size of a thick USB cable, as opposed to the 2 and the clunky thing in there and everything. But I want to see the headset lighter and have some more aeration, because that's one of the things too. If you're playing it for a little while, it does feel a little bit heavy on your neck. I mean, at first it's not at all. The first 10 minutes you put it on, it's like, oh, this isn't bad at all. But if you're playing a long session, it does. It gets super annoying.
Especially if you're standing up.
Yeah, and for me, and I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but I forget the name of this gland right here. Right behind your ears, about an inch behind your ears, you have glands. If you ever watch UFC, that's where you get punched, you get knocked out instantly, whether you like to or not. So it's like right behind the ear. You can feel it's like a soft spot, almost like a mushy spot. Maybe it's just me because I'm heavy, but but no, like, and it's if you ever get a massage, like today we got a massage from electronics. We had a 2-hour electronic massage today. But yeah, like that part of your skull is very soothing if you get a massage there, but it's also very disruptive if you just have pressure on it for a period of time. And that's where, for me, because
I get that too.
Yeah, because of the way that the headset rests on your head, everyone has a different shaped head, and the way my head is shaped, that you need to pinpoint the precision to get the blur to go away.
Right.
You know, there's not a wide range of where your eyes can be inside that headset to, it's not like you can just throw them on and shake your head around. You got to like get this thing strapped on your head, and you've got to constantly adjust it so that your blurriness is reduced. And for me, the way it is it has to be tight around my head and right across those glands. And it does cause fatigue.
They have those pads. Pads are in the back and they push up against, but sometimes it's a little too much.
Well, even just any amount of pressure. And I noticed just because of that, I was doing some research, and I noticed that even if I sleep and I put my hand back there, like, it helps me fall asleep faster. And I always wonder, why do I put my hands back like this as opposed to here or whatever? And I don't know if it's just a natural thing for me, but if you put a lot of pressure on those spots, eventually you start getting tired. And I do. I don't know if anyone else does, but I think that has, I never play long time on the VR because of the fatigue I get. I get VR fatigue where I start yawning. A lot of the times I think that it's because I don't sleep a lot, but then when I do get a lot of sleep and I throw the headset on, it's almost like instantly I start feeling like ready for bed, And so I have put it on. I have put the headset on to help trick my brain into saying I'm ready for sleep or whatever. A couple times, but I don't know. Maybe there's some scientists out there that can explain better. But I did a little bit of research on that, and there is some validity to it, that those glands basically connect right to your brain or something, or there's a lot of nerves right there that if you get hit there, you can be shut off like a light, but it's like instant. So you do get knocked out, but then instantly you're back up. It's not like a permanent, out for the count. It's just a lights out, lights on. And so, but if there's a little pressure there, so it makes me wonder too, like when I played baseball, I remember having the helmet, and whenever it was too tight, for me, it was just like super uncomfortable to like be in the helmet. And so while I'm up there, up to bat, nervous as hell that I'm going to strike out or whatever, I was more conscious about the helmet on my head than the ball coming at me. And so as I got older, my head shape changed. I remember that when I was like my last year of Little League, I remember the helmet fitting good and being like super happy. And that was the one year of my entire childhood baseball career I made the All-Star team. And it was, you know what I mean? It was like, maybe, I don't know, maybe I had something to do with it.
All about the good fitting helmet, man. Yeah.
So going back to the point I was trying to make, because I go off on tangents, is that I want the VR headset to have multiple ways to fit onto your head, or be light enough so that and none of that matters. It would be great if it was just a pair of glasses, but I know that we're not there yet. But I've seen some different devices that are almost like Geordie LaForge, Star Trek things, and they just clip onto the side of your head or something.
Isolating peripherals and all.
Maybe in 20 years we'll see something like that, but don't go, maybe soon. Don't go bigger. Go try to get what you got smaller. Maybe they can make that happen. And I'm sure they're using the data of what people are using on the current system to enhance those things and reduce the stuff that they don't have. The last thing I'm going to say on this is Jerry touched upon it when he was on his the VR cell phone app. You can go into Netflix or something and you can watch and you can feel like you're in a movie theater or on a beach or whatever. PlayStation has not provided any of that. There's secondary apps, there's PC apps, there's all this stuff. But PlayStation doesn't have two things. They don't have a VR space.
Playroom or
like they have a playroom, but they don't have like what's the main screen called? Like the menu screen, I guess. Right. So
Yeah,
that
home.
the home screen. Yeah, the home screen. There's no VR home screen, and you would think that like maybe they would build that in, like a VR home screen. You know, last year, that movie came out with what's it called? Ready Player One, right?
You're right.
And so, like, we know what people want. That's the kind of stuff that people want. And, you know, give us on PC, they have VR chat. Probably a lot of it has to do with the policing. It's hard to police those areas, and people get pretty fucking crazy. And rather than have Sony be the police of it, you know, they're waiting for somebody else. But they have to develop something that makes it more prominent. That makes it, you know, like when you have a friend come over and you're like, try this fucking game. And then they try it and like, I want to play this more. I want this system. Show some love to it, not just from developers give us games to put in here, but show that you're developing for it. They did produce Astrobot. They did produce a couple of VR games, and they did can a couple other companies that were developing VR games out the gate. So it's like, you don't know how committed Sony is to the software that they're using. But you know that they're committed from a standpoint of supporting the developers who are building the game. So I'd like to see more from Sony on that in the next generation. Build it into the system so that all they have to buy is the headset. Or make packages that are affordable with the headset included. And build a community, a VR community that people love The Sims. People love that Second Life game. They're still fucking playing that thing 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wouldn't probably get into that. But the fact is, in order to hit the mass, you have to hit those people that they're still playing that game. Pull them over here. Make the world that they want. Let them build on it. You know, give access to the porn community. You know, I mean, as you know, people,
It's a big market.
a lot of people will roll their eyes, but the truth is,
yeah.
VR porn is like the next thing for everybody in that world, and you know, like Sony has blocked that out, and it's just like we've got to be honest here. Like that innovates. The reason we have a Netflix and YouTube is because of what that industry has been able to the technology that industry's ushered. The need for high quality, fast bit rate, you know, video. We would be lying if we didn't say that was a thing that happens out there. So, like, give the people what they want is my point, and it will sell further. It'll expand the technology more, and then there'll be more headsets in people's heads, and then the developers will say, you know what, I'm not going to make a 2-hour game. I want to make an 18-hour game. I want to make it a chapter by chapter, continuing updates game. There's a couple studios doing it, but a few of the big studios have just kind of started getting their feet wet. Part of me thinks that that's because they're working on the 5 and working on games for the 5. They were testing it out with the 4, got some stuff out there, and then now those teams are working on something bigger. That's my hope. I don't know for sure. So, you were going to talk. Whoa! We got. It's almost 11 Eastern, 8 o'clock. He's got 9 more minutes. Gerard's got to catch his plane here in a little bit, so he's catching some Z's. Jimmy is
he's just full on out now. He's deep in an REM cycle at this point.
So today what happened was we were walking and we decided. Actually, Jerry decided he wanted to check out the roller coasters over at Circus. Never seen them before, so. We made our way over to that casino. It took about another hour 25 minutes just to walk through the parking lot. And
just to find out that they're closed.
Yeah, just to find out that they're closed. I mean, just for some perspective for people who haven't been here, it's like every building is the size of multiple shopping malls with a giant towering hotel on top of it. And so, like, perspective, your mind, just like in VR actually, your mind is seeing all this stuff and you know what a hotel is. You know how big a hotel is. Hotels, you know how far it is. So, like, your mind is seeing a hotel right down the road, but these things are 10 times bigger than a normal hotel in a normal, you know, mall.
Right.
And so, like, since everything is bigger, you don't realize it, and so you think you can, you know, it's a 10-minute walk down the road, and really you just get to the end of the block at that point, and there's still like 40 more minutes to go. So that's the running joke that we have, but if you haven't been to Vegas, and plus also in the daytime, the mountain ranges that are in the back. I've read this and I'm seeing it myself too. They help throw that perspective into high gear because those mountains are so big and they're everywhere. It's like 365 degrees of mountain ranges, and they're really, really far away and they're really big. But it helps.
Depth perception.
Yeah, it helps your depth. Exactly, and it makes these buildings really look like regular sized buildings as opposed to these monstrous buildings. So it's cool. But we went to the circus and we're walking around. We get to the amusement park doors and we find out that the park is closed.
Yeah, great. I'll have to wait till the next trip.
Yeah, no. Could have done it yesterday, but no, we chose today. And so we're walking around this mall area, and they have one of those like hydration station oxygen bars that a couple of us had never done, and the girl behind the bar was a little bit of a wise ass, and that'll always stop some of us to, we fire back, and we had a lot of fun, and she was funny. And she talked us, well, I don't even know if she talked us into it. I just was intrigued that the price was right. It was like $25 for 15 minutes was the deal. And no better, because we weren't getting a deal out of her.
Right.
No. That's how she started that. Like, I don't work for free, and I'm not giving you a deal. So we went and sat down, and Jimmy and I started it off.
But to be clear, she didn't have to sell us. We had some guys who were in dire need, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we were sold on it that it helps, like the hangover remedy type thing. And Jimmy was he was falling asleep at the wheel right there. So we sat down, we did the oxygen thing, and then she started throwing on all these different devices. Like I had this shoulder pad neck massager thing that was unlike any massage tool I've ever used in my life. It was just absolutely nuts. And then Jimmy started getting the stims, the muscle stims.
Yeah.
And those were way more powerful than any of those things I've ever used in my entire life. But then we realized we've been sitting there for a good 30, 40 minutes just shooting the shit with this girl. And, she was talking about all the different products and the different flavors of this oxygen. And meanwhile, Jimmy are strapped up like, hospital patients with these things up our nose.
Shoulder twitching.
Yeah, shoulders twitching. And she starts talking about all the different products. And next thing you know, David's got something on him. Jerry's got something on him.
She's
Gerard's over there.
Guy, girl across a fat piece of shit.
Yeah, fat piece of shit. I thought Gerard had walked away. I look over. He's getting his neck taken care of by a machine, and it felt like the one I had felt like it was like 10 people with elbows just digging into my neck in the right spots, and it was awesome. So we ended up sitting there for I think 2 hours just with a constant massage for 2 hours and oxygen pumping into my brain for 2 hours. So it was nuts. And,
well, the way this thing evolved was really funny too. You only really had two guys starting off really interested in any of it. And next thing you know, it's like all of us sitting there.
Minutes.
And the thing is, we pushed a good, 45 minutes to an hour. All of us end up hooked up, which was really cool because she didn't charge us.
Yeah, she didn't charge them for that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys paid for, your oxygen stuff, but like the rest of us who were getting hooked up to e-stims and stuff, we were just, getting the benefit of just hanging out with you guys there. And being perfectly honest, I had no intention of walking away, kind of buying anything, but I did.
Yeah.
It's Vegas. That's what happened. So.
Well, it's funny when we were at breakfast this morning, we were talking about how you do Vegas, and we were actually just specifically talking about how, like, no plans. We don't have any plan. There's no, like, agenda here, at least for these first couple of days. And we definitely didn't have on the agenda 2 hours at a booth at the mall with electronic devices on our necks. So
it's exhausting being awesome.
It's exhausting, being awesome. It's really but if we had a time frame, we would have been like, no, we can't do this, and then we would have missed out on that really cool.
That's why plans like in Vegas can actually be more stressful unless there's something that you specifically came here to do. To show that you absolutely knew that this is why I'm going there. I need to see Celine Dion or whatever it is going on, right? Outside of that stuff where you're probably just going to cut out a little window for it or whatever, I can't do plans in Vegas. I can't. It's always such a minute-to-minute thing for me. And it adds to the stress if I know I have commitments, all throughout the trip. So I really do enjoy just hitting Vegas and taking it minute by minute. I think that's a way to really just wing it, right? That's the thing, wing it.
Yeah, absolutely, wing it for sure. So as we wrap up, we could be talking all night. We might do this again, or I might do this again, but with a different cast of characters. We might get Jimmy up and find out what he's got a story that I've been dying to hear it for 2 days. He's been saying he's going to tell it on the podcast, and now he's passed out. He hasn't moved an inch, but he looks like he's sleeping like a little baby, so we're going to let him sleep while we take funny pictures of him and post them in our private chat. And
that's happening.
yeah, we'll have to try that. Nope, he's not listening. Okay, cool. So, but yeah, no, it's been an awesome couple of days with you guys as we wind that down. I look forward to talking to you both about this kind of stuff. And Jerry, if I can convince you to just straight up quit your job and start focusing on Fortnite, and we'll build a clan, man. We'll build a clan. No, I'm kidding. But David is going to start doing some ASMR. I have a feeling.
By the ears and...
I'm over here trying to build a channel. This guy's like, in 2 weeks, he's going to have 400,000 listeners, and he's going to pretend he never met me, and into the microphone. I don't know that Kevin guy. But no, it'd be awesome if you did that kind of stuff. It'd be funny as hell.
Seems like a back.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, thank you guys for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Always fun.
Always fun. Always fun. I'm going to tuck this in. I might tuck this into an episode or just release it as one episode. I'll probably, today is the 14th of January, but I'm probably going to edit this on the 15th. So, time doesn't matter here in Vegas, so don't worry about it, all right? You're just listening. Don't worry about nothing. And be good. Don't put it all down. We watched a guy the other night. We'll finish this off with this. One of the saddest moments I think I've seen.
Oh, man. So painful.
We were all like, I don't even know. We walked into a casino, and this guy, what was it? Cosmopolitan, yeah. And this guy who was absolutely hammered, and his friend who was even more drunk, were right there putting, I think it was $2,000 down on blackjack. Single hand, and you knew it was one of those moments where he was trying to redeem himself or something. He must have lost everything. Probably went to the credit card machine or the ATM machine, pulled it out, and he pushed on that hand and let it ride and lost. In like 10 seconds, he lost $2,000 and like broke down in tears. And his buddy was like screaming in his face, holding his head up. Sorry. Like screaming in his face, holding his head up while this guy was like literally knees buckling, almost falling to the ground. It was just one of those like, holy shit. You know that happens 100,000 times a day
like
here.
filling out divorce papers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you better not come home broke. I won't.
I'm just going to go ahead right now and blame the buddy. I have a feeling that guy was there to be his rock. Don't let me do anything stupid. And the way it turns out, they get liquor, and I'm like, yeah, go ahead. That's a great idea.
It did. It seemed like the buddy was probably the catalyst there on that bet. Just do it, man. You know you got this. And he didn't have it. So don't be like that guy. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And be smart. So thank you all for listening. This is the Backlog Exposed.